The day after I woke up and told my wife, why did I do that? I don't know. I just don't know what the hell. I remember one thing, I had a very hard moment in that part of my life, but I assure you in that age, I could have put that clown in the first round, but I sold my soul and I'm ashamed of it.
True that you made $170 million from this fight?
I made a lot of money, the most money I've made ever.
60 million households, Jake.
250 million people.
Bro, that is so
It's all downhill
crazy.
from here.
No, for sure.
I peaked.
Do you think the Jake Paul, Anthony, Joshua fight plays out?
I don't know. I want to make sure. I believe it once I see him in the ring.
If Paul starts his boxing career earlier, could Jake Paul have been a champion?
Is it possible?
The shocking ending is already set because Anthony Joshua didn't just knock out Jake Paul. He shattered an entire illusion and forced Mike Tyson to quietly admit he chose a scripted show over real combat. Now, boxing looks fake in a way it can't recover from. And no, this can't be real. So rewind with me, because to understand how we got here, you have to accept that this wasn't a fight. It was a slow-motion betrayal that finally broke when a genuine heavyweight touched a celebrity and the universe corrected itself.
Y'all the truth, I told y'all. They made Mike Tyson retract his statement on Twitter. They made him rewrite a post on top of deleting a post. Yeah, I told you that fight between Mike Tyson and Jake Paul was rigged. I told you that. I don't care what Mike Tyson is saying now. He have to do that to secure his money. He's still an investment for future exhibitions.
I'm still stuck on the ringside image of Tyson watching Joshua dismantle Paul, because that wasn't pride or shock. It was recognition mixed with regret, the kind of regret that creeps up your spine when you realize someone else just did the thing you were paid not to do. Every muscle memory in Tyson's body knew it. And if you think that didn't hit him like a truck, you're lying to yourself right now. Here's the part nobody wants to face, because it gets uncomfortable fast. Tyson could have ended Jake Paul whenever he wanted. Everyone in that building knew it, including Jake. That's why Joshua's knockout hits harder. It proves the ceiling was always fake, but the danger was always real. Once that truth leaks out, you can't reseal it, no matter how many statements get rewritten. The moment Joshua dropped Paul in round 5, the timeline fractured. Suddenly, every past fight was re-examined under a harsher light. I swear you could feel viewers mentally rewinding to that Tyson bout, asking the same forbidden question at the same time. Why didn't he do this? Why didn't he pull the trigger? Why did this feel different? Once those questions start looping, they don't stop.
I don't want to do an exhibition against Floyd Mayweather. He said, I'm only doing real fights. Now, of course, I can't get up high in weight, but I'll fight him in a real fight at the weight that I'm at. But Jake Paul, I mean, as of right now, for what he's doing, it's good for what he's doing. But once he fights a real fighter, it's going to be.
I'm still stuck on the ringside image of Tyson watching Joshua dismantle Paul, because that wasn't pride or shock. It was recognition mixed with regret, the kind of regret that creeps up your spine when you realize someone else just did the thing you were paid not to do. Every muscle memory in Tyson's body knew it. And if you think that didn't hit him like a truck, you're lying to yourself right now. Here's the part nobody wants to face, because it gets uncomfortable fast. Tyson could have ended Jake Paul whenever he wanted. Everyone in that building knew it, including Jake. That's why Joshua's knockout hits harder. It proves the ceiling was always fake, but the danger was always real. Once that truth leaks out, you can't reseal it, no matter how many statements get rewritten. The moment Joshua dropped Paul in round 5, the timeline fractured. Suddenly, every past fight was re-examined under a harsher light. I swear you could feel viewers mentally rewinding to that Tyson bout, asking the same forbidden question at the same time. Why didn't he do this? Why didn't he pull the trigger? Why did this feel different? Once those questions start looping, they don't stop.
I don't want to do an exhibition against Floyd Mayweather. He said, I'm only doing real fights. Now, of course, I can't get up high in weight, but I'll fight him in a real fight at the weight that I'm at. But Jake Paul, I mean, as of right now, for what he's doing, it's good for what he's doing. But once he fights a real fighter, it's going to be bad.
People keep calling this a mismatch, but that's too clean a word for what actually happened. This was exposure. This was gravity reasserting itself after years of suspension. And Joshua didn't rush it, he hunted it, which makes it even more terrifying, because when a real fighter takes his time, it means he already knows the ending. Jake felt that pressure closing in on him round after round. Then the 6th round landed like a verdict. And I don't mean the punch, I mean the meaning. That right hand didn't just break a jaw, it broke the permission for this experiment to keep pretending it was boxing. Once titanium plates enter the conversation, the jokes die instantly. Anyone still laughing is either numb or lying. What chills me most is Eddie Hearn's line about giving Jake his debut and AJ giving him his last fight. That wasn't trash talk, that was a closing statement. Promoters don't talk like that unless they believe the door is actually shut. And if you think Jake didn't hear that echoing in his head while staring at hospital lights, you're missing the psychological damage entirely.
I want to follow with you because when this fight was first announced, you had said something to the effect of this would end Jake Paul's career. After what you saw tonight, do you think that Jake should continue to box, or what do you think the future holds for him?
Yeah, no, I really take my hat off to. I mean, we have to see if it is a broken jaw. Those injuries are very difficult to come back from. But as AJ said, like that last shot would have knocked out a lot of heavyweights. And I know he went down heavy, but you know, he was conscious on the floor. And I thought his game plan, although obviously very negative early on, which it had to be, was smart at times. And there were times where he held his feet and let his hands go. You know, it was a very one-sided fight. It was always going to be a one.
Joshua tore it apart,
forcing a brutal comparison, because one man stuck to the script and the other ripped it up. History only remembers one of those choices, no matter how big the paycheck was. I don't care how many people call this a conspiracy, because Tyson himself cracked the door open when he admitted he doesn't even remember the fight and woke up asking why he did it. That's not the voice of a man satisfied with his performance. That's the voice of someone who knows he left something sacred on the table. And that kind of regret only grows louder with time, not quieter. Let me say this slowly, because it matters. Joshua didn't need to say anything after the fight. His fist said it all, and silence backed it up. When silence becomes the loudest voice in the room, it means the truth is too obvious to spin. Every influencer fighter watching right now just felt their stomach drop, whether they admit it or not.
But it's not from like talking.
Talk to me about what your jaw feels like, because you got
It's like a baseball in there.
two plates?
It just feels like
4 titanium plates.
4 titanium plates. How many do you have?
Just one.
Nobody wants to pull the plug yet because it threatens the entire business model. If one real heavyweight can undo years of hype in just 6 rounds, then how fragile was this whole ecosystem all along? And if that question makes you uncomfortable, good, you should be. Because someone is absolutely scrambling behind the scenes right now to contain what this really means.
You know what I remember? Coming back from the first round, and then the next day I remember Jake is doing some kind of, I don't know, what was he doing at the ring?
Oh, yeah, a little bow at the end, he bowed.
And that's the last thing I remember. You know, but the day after the fight, the day after, I woke up and told my wife, why did I do that? You know, I don't know. I just don't know what the hell goes on.
What did you think of Jake's power, man, when you were in there?
I keep thinking about Tyson watching that broken jaw news hit, because biology doesn't lie, and marketing can't argue with bone fractures. Seeing physical proof of what a real punch does forces you to confront every moment you chose not to throw one. And no, this can't be real. Unless regret is already eating at him far harder than he's letting on. Here's a time bomb thought you shouldn't ignore. If Tyson is now openly admitting that money dictated outcomes, then how many other fights are about to get relitigated in the public mind? Once trust erodes, it spreads fast. Boxing has always survived on belief, and belief is bleeding out right now. Another thing that won't leave me alone is how calm Joshua looked the entire time. Calm fighters are the most dangerous and the most honest. His calm felt like someone executing a correction, not chasing glory. And corrections don't stop at one target, they ripple outward. So ask yourself, who feels exposed next?
After this Floyd fight, maybe we can have a rematch. He did well, but I want to try it again.
Is that something that you would be interested in terms of righting the wrong and knocking them out?
Yes, I would. I would be interested.
This doesn't end with a knockout highlight or a press quote because the silence afterward feels staged. When things go quiet this suddenly, it usually means deals are being rewritten and stories are being buried. And I don't trust it, not for a second, because this situation is still unfolding and something uglier is absolutely coming. When it breaks, it's going to make this knockout look like a warning shot. What keeps looping in my head is how inevitable this all feels in hindsight, like the sport itself finally got tired of pretending and decided to snap the rubber band back into place. For years, the line between spectacle and competition was stretched so far it was begging to break. Joshua just happened to be the guy standing there when it finally did. I keep thinking about how confidence turns into arrogance without anyone noticing the exact moment it crosses over. That's what doomed this whole thing. Not the ambition, not the money, but the belief that reality could be negotiated if you talked loud enough and built a big enough audience around you. There's something deeply unsettling about watching a narrative collapse in real time because it exposes how much of what we consume as fans is trust-based. Once that trust cracks, you start questioning everything retroactively, how many moments you cheered for were real, and how many were carefully padded edges to protect an outcome. Joshua didn't just win a fight. He reintroduced consequences. And that's the part people aren't fully processing yet, because consequences don't trend well, but they linger. They sit with fighters long after the cameras are gone and the tweets stop flying. I can't shake the image of preparation versus promotion, because one happens in silence and the other needs noise to survive. When they finally collide, silence always wins. Not dramatically, not loudly, just decisively, like gravity reminding you it was never impressed by hype. What really bothers me is how normalized it became to frame real fighters as obstacles in a storyline instead of human beings with decades of experience and damage baked into their instincts. Because once you reduce them to plot devices, you forget they can end your night with one clean decision. There's also a strange sadness in realizing that even legends aren't immune to the system, that even someone like Tyson can be pulled into the gravity of spectacle and money. It shows how powerful the machinery has become and how hard it is to step outside once you're inside. I don't think people fully grasp how rare it is to witness a moment that rewrites the emotional hierarchy of a sport, where suddenly the loudest voices go quiet, and the quiet professionals are the only ones left standing with their credibility intact. Every replay of that knockout feels heavier than the last. Not because of the punch itself, but because of what it represents. A hard line drawn between levels. A reminder that experience isn't just time served, but damage endured and lessons learned the painful way. There's an irony in how the pursuit of legitimacy ended up accelerating the loss of illusion. Because chasing real competition means eventually meeting it. And real competition doesn't care about branding, optics, or whether the moment is convenient. I keep wondering how many fighters watched that bout and felt two opposite emotions at once: relief that the sport defended itself, and fear that the same spotlight could turn on them if they ever misjudged the gap between confidence and competence. But fallout matters more than the fight, because fallout is where careers pivot, where managers reassess, where matchmaking philosophies change, and where fans recalibrate what they're willing to believe the next time a big promise gets made. There's also a lesson here about patience, because Joshua didn't rush to prove anything. He waited for the opening that was always going to come, and that patience is something you only learn after years of being punished for impatience. What makes this linger is that it didn't feel cruel or excessive. It felt surgical, which somehow makes it more damning, because there was no chaos to hide behind, just a methodical dismantling that left nowhere to point the blame but inward. I think the sport needed this moment even if it didn't want it. Because without periodic reality checks are necessary, or boxing risks drifting too far into theater. And theater without risk eventually becomes empty, no matter how flashy the lights are. There's a quiet reckoning happening now, not just for one fighter, but for an entire approach to selling fights. Audiences may still love spectacle, but they've just been reminded how much they respect authenticity when it finally shows up. I can't help but feel this will change how crossover is talked about going forward, because crossover implies mutual respect between disciplines, not one side borrowing credibility without fully earning it. The psychological damage might outlast the physical injuries, because once doubt creeps in at this level, it doesn't leave easily. And doubt is the one opponent you can't train away with conditioning or money. What stays with me most is how fast admiration turns into scrutiny when the shield drops. The same crowd that buys into the dream will dissect it mercilessly once it fails. That swing is brutal if you're not prepared for it. There's no clean ending here. No moral bow to tie it up. Just a sense that something shifted and hasn't settled yet. Like tectonic plates after an earthquake, where the aftershocks are still coming. And the most unsettling part is knowing this isn't the final chapter. Once a sport exposes a fault line this clearly, the next break could be even louder, messier, and far less forgiving than the last.